Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's had a good Monday so far. Um, I got bored and decided to do another episode of Simon and Blades for Hire. So we'll continue the story that happened yesterday. I like to say welcome to all the new subscribers, which reminds me, if you like the video, please leave a like, leave a comment if you want to, and subscribe to the stream so you'll know when we are coming, whenever we are broadcasting on YouTube for the solo stuff or our once weekly Cursor Strahd game, which is still on hiatus. So I figured we'd start off with finishing up what happened last night, and let me get some music going since I don't own the copyrights for the music. Hopefully, it won't matter. I don't own the copyright. Number three with the awesome soundtrack. And that's it for that. Now it's time for the summary.
Here it is, Deke. Repeated verbatim exactly as you pasted it. No edits, no polish, no cleanup. Blades for Hire, Episode 10, The Unwritten Man Summary. Simon and Dern escape the ruins of Varen's apothecary after destroying the Reclaimer, but the consequences ripple across the city immediately. The golden dust settles, yet something unseen takes note. Simon's name has been erased from Malvor's cosmic ledger, making him an unwritten man, a being the system can no longer categorize. They retreat to the Copper Mare Inn, but the city is already whispering. Patrons murmur about golden flashes over Binder's Row, tightened guard patrols, and, most chilling, a name that vanished from the Hall of Records without a trace. Simon quietly invokes Valherin, feeling the silent presence of something powerful watching through the cracks. Following two gossiping clerks, Simon and Dern tail a woman named Mara Denlin into the civic quarter. She returns to the Hall of Records after dark, trying to confirm a report of an erased page. Simon follows her inside, accidentally alerting the building with the loudest floorboard in the city. The hall awakens. A registrar wraith, a guardian spirit of law and identity, forms from swirling parchment and golden ink. It confronts Simon, calling him an unrecorded entity. Simon lets Valherin rise within him. The wraith kneels. Terrified but fascinated, Mara realizes Simon is the exact name the hall lost, and the only person the rewriting phenomenon cannot touch. Simon tells her everything about Malvor, the collectors, the reclaimer, and the cosmic ledger. Instead of running, Mara pieces together a horrifying truth. Someone in the city is silently rewriting people, erasing them from record, page by page. And Simon, untrackable, unenforceable, unbound, is the only one who can walk through the cracks without being rewritten. Episode 10 ends with Mara looking Simon dead in the eyes. If you want to do good, you're the only one who can stop whoever is behind this. Valherin listens. The hall watches. Something deeper moves in the pages. The hunt begins in episode 11. If you want, I can also store it, reformat it, turn it into a YouTube description, or build episode 11's cold open next.
Let's go ahead and start episode 11.
All right, Simon. Deep breath. You're you're stepping into episode 11 with the weight of the city's secrets perched on your shoulders like a vulture waiting for a twitch. Episode 11 begins right where you left off. Blades for Hire. Episode 11, Through the Cracks. The Hall of Records stands silent now. The registrar wraith has melted back into motes of golden ink drifting near the ceiling, watching you like an archivist with a new, very confusing book. Mara Denlin stands in front of you, breath sharp, nerves jangling. Outside, Binder's Row is dead quiet. That uncanny, waiting kind of quiet. The moon is high. Lanterns gutter. Patrols move a little too fast, like they're nervous about shadows they can't name. Mara swallows, trying to steady herself, and says, "Well, you wanted to do good. Then you'd better come with me. If someone is rewriting people, we don't have time to waste." She gestures toward the side exit, a door normally locked, but the wraith drifts down, touches it, and the bolts click open like obedient servants. The door opens to a narrow alley between the civic buildings. Chilly air, a faint metallic smell. Mara starts walking quickly, cloak tight, her boots clacking on stone. "Simon," she says without turning around, "there's something you should know. Before you showed up tonight, two more names vanished. Entire pages reworked. A man from the upper ward and a child." She pauses, just enough for the dread to land. Whoever is doing this isn't just cleaning up loose ends. They're escalating. She turns to you now, lantern light catching the edge of her glasses. "I need to know. Are you ready to push into this? Because once we start, there won't be a way back." The alley seems to press in around you. The city feels like it's breathing through thin paper. Something deep in the cracks shifts its weight. "Simon, what do you do?"
I tell Mara that I'm going to do whatever I can to help that not happen again.
Mara studies you for a long second, like she's checking whether your words are solid or just smoke. Whatever she sees, it hits her hard enough that her shoulders loosen just a bit. "Good," she says. "Then we move fast." She leads you deeper down the alley, toward a narrow stone stairway descending beneath the civic quarter. The air grows colder, the shadows thicker, and that metallic tang intensifies. Mara keeps her lantern lowered to avoid attracting attention, but even dim light catches your scimitars, painting those glowing runes across your coat like ghostly scars. As you move, something nags at you. Not danger exactly, more like awareness. Valharan is watching, not hostile, not protective. Something more curious. That feeling of a cosmic hand hovering just above your shoulder, ready to nudge you if the moment calls for it. Mara stops at the bottom of the stairs in front of an iron gate. She takes out a ring of keys. This is where the hall stores sealed cases, redactions, identity disputes, things that don't fit. If someone's been rewriting people, their paper trail might have begun here. She unlocks the gate. The hinges give a soft growl. Beyond is a long corridor lined with shelves, scrolls, ledger boxes, and dust thick enough to choke a librarian god. "The city thinks this place is safe," Mara says. "But you're not in the system anymore." She gestures to the corridor. "See if anything reacts to you." Something shifts deeper in the stacks. Papers rustle, ever so slightly. What does Simon do next?
Simon walks down a row of stacks to see if anything sticks out. Should I make an investigation check or arcana check?
Simon steps between the shelves. the dust laden air parting around him like it recognizes something it can't categorize. Pages give a faint tremble as he passes, not quite a breeze, more like a tension. Here's how it breaks down. Investigation: if Simon is examining the physical evidence, missing pages, inconsistencies in ink, altered handwriting, hidden compartments, scratch outs, physical signs of tampering. Arcana: if he's trying to sense metaphysical disturbance, rewritten identity threads, cosmic residue from the reclaimer, fractures in the ledger's conceptual structure, magical noise left behind by whoever is altering reality. Either will reveal something, just from different angles. Your call, Deke. Tell me which one you want and give me that roll.
I'm gonna stick with Arcana since I'm so good at it. Well, that's not very good. I rolled a 14 Arcana check.
Simon takes a slow breath and lets his senses slip just a hair past the physical world, letting that eldritch night instinct mingle with the strange new unwritten frequency humming under his skin. The stacks respond. Your 14 Arcana isn't a mind blowing surge of cosmic genius, but it's enough to feel the edges of what's wrong. And the edges are sharp. Here's what Simon picks up: a soft hum runs through the shelves, but not evenly. Most of the scrolls, boxes, bar, and ledgers feel still the way mundane records should. But about 20 feet in, tucked halfway up the right hand shelf, Simon feels something like static brushing his fingertips. A ledger box. Old. Heavy. Wrapped in twine that shouldn't vibrate, but it is, not visibly, only in the arcane sense, like a guitar string plucked just beyond hearing. As Simon approaches, the sensation sharpens, not magical in the shapely spellcaster way, more like a wound in the bookkeeping of reality trying to scab over. And then it hits. A momentary tug under your ribs, like someone trying to pull at your identity the way the Reclaimer once tried to pull Varen's soul thread. Only it slips off you like fingers failing to grip oil. You are unwritten. The hook can't latch. Mara notices the way you stiffen and steps closer, whispering, "Did something react to you?" The ledger box gives the faintest thump inside, like something moved. Just once, very subtle, very wrong. What does Simon do?
First off, where's Durst during all this? Simon will pull the ledger box down to show Mara.
Durst is with you. He's hanging back at the mouth of the corridor, keeping watch like a damn guard dog with two swords and the emotional range of a brick. He's tense, though. Every time a page rustles, his hand twitches toward a blade. He's giving you space to do the spooky identity theft arcane stuff while making sure nothing sneaks up behind you. Simon reaches up and pulls the ledger box off the shelf. The moment your hands touch it, the vibration stops, like the thing is holding its breath. The twine is brittle, old enough that it should crack when you move it, but it doesn't. It flexes. It yields. Mara steps closer, lantern light brushing the edges of the box, and you can see her eyes track every tiny twitch of your fingers. Careful, she murmurs. Durst mutters, things shouldn't move like that from the end of the aisle. His voice is low enough not to echo, but tense enough to betray that even he is unsettled. As you lower the box into the open so she can see it, the ledger inside gives another faint, deliberate thump. Not random, not settling. More like, I know you. Mara goes pale. That should not happen. Ledger entries don't move. They don't react. They don't. And then she cuts herself off because the twine around the box twitches, just once, like something underneath is shifting position. Not trying to escape, not trying to attack, more like adjusting itself to face Simon. Mara whispers, Simon, whatever's in that ledger, it might be connected to whoever's rewriting the city. Durst takes one heavy step forward, hand on his sword. Say the word, and I'll chop the damn book in half. The ledger box gives a tiny, almost mocking rustle. Do you open it?
Simon will use his arcana to decide the best way to open the box.
Simon focuses on the ledger box, and the thing focuses right back. This isn't a simple case of open it carefully versus open it recklessly. There's intention inside this box, and it's testing the edges of you the way a blind creature tests the air for heat. Arcana absolutely applies here, but you'll need a fresh roll to determine how Simon interprets the safest way to crack this thing open without triggering whatever tucked itself inside the pages. Here's what the roll will decide behind the curtain. Low roll, the ledger reacts violently or defensively when opened. Mid roll, you open it, but something inside notices you noticing it. High roll, Simon manipulates the arcane hooking mechanisms to open it without letting whatever's inside latch onto him. Give me a fresh arcana roll, Deke. Then we'll see how the box wants to misbehave.
21. Simon rolled a 21 arcana.
Simon's fingers hover over the twine, and for a second, the whole corridor seems to wait. A 21 Arcana is the kind of roll that makes the universe briefly reconsider whether it should have tried messing with you in the first place. Simon isn't just sensing the magic, he's diagnosing it. Here's what he understands in a flash of razor clarity. The ledger isn't cursed. It isn't trapped. It isn't even alive in the conventional sense. It's anchored. Someone or something has tethered this book directly to an identity thread in the city's conceptual architecture, and that thread is under strain, like a violin string tuned too tight. If anyone else opened it, the tether would snap wildly, rewriting the opener or lashing back in pure conceptual recoil. But Simon is unwritten. He's the one person the tether can't hook, can't rewrite, can't grab. He slides a thumb under the twine. A pulse of pressure pushes back, like a hand trying to push him away, but it slips right off him and evaporates. Simon pulls. The twine falls away like wet grass. He opens the box. The lantern light flickers as a gust of cold, dry air rolls out. Mara gasps. Durst mutters something that might be a prayer or a curse. Inside the box is a ledger bound in cracked leather. The spine is broken in one place, bent unnaturally inward. Pages near the center bulge like something pressed outward from inside the text. And stamped across the front in official civic wax is a single word, revoked. But here's the part that makes your skin crawl in a not entirely unpleasant way. As Simon touches the cover, the ledger doesn't resist, it relaxes, like it's relieved you opened it instead of someone else. Mara steps closer, whispering, Simon, this ledger was part of a sealed identity case. Someone's thread was forcibly removed. The pages ripple, slow, controlled, like someone turning their face toward you. Do you open the ledger to the disturbed section?
Yes, I opened the ledger.
Simon eases the ledger open. The pages shiver under your fingertips, not from fear, but from tension, the way a pulled thread quivers before it snaps. Mara leans in, her breath hitching. Durst's boots scrape on stone as he shifts his stance, ready for whatever ugly trick this book might spit out. You flip to the warped section. The moment the page turns, a pulse of cold light ripples across the text, like frost crawling over glass. Ink bleeds outward, then retracts, forming and unforming shapes that refuse to stay stable. Finally, the page settles, and what you see shouldn't exist. The ledger entry name erased, occupation erased, residence erased, status revoked, cause notes. The rest of the line is torn out violently, leaving only a smear of golden residue where words should be. Then you see the real horror. A secondary note written in a much older, tighter hand, nothing like the main ledger scribe. Smaller, leaner, precise. A note that was not meant to be read. Thread severed, replacement pending. Observer notified. Mara clamps a hand over her mouth. Replacement pending. Simon. That means someone wasn't just erased, they were substituted. The city might already be interacting with a false version. Before she can finish, the ink on the page ripples again, forming one last line. This one is new, fresh, written in real time. A message. Unwritten entity detected, tracking suspended. Then another line appears beneath it. Hello, Simon. The ink dries hard, like blood on parchment. The air gets colder behind you. Durst's sword half leaves its sheath. Something in the stacks shifts. A whisper of paper, a soft exhale, as though the hall itself is listening. Mara whispers, barely audible, Simon, something just addressed you directly. What do you do?
Simon says, hello, Buck.
The moment Simon says it, the ledger reacts like a creature hearing its own name spoken for the first time. The page tightens under your fingers. Ink contracts. Something shifts inside the spine. Not violently, not maliciously. More like a dog raising its head when its master walks in the room, or a spy realizing it's been caught. The fresh ink scrawls again, slowly, deliberately. Acknowledged. A beat. Then another line. Your thread is absent. A third line appears, hesitant, as if the ledger is unsure whether it's allowed to say this part. You cannot be rewritten. Mara is frozen beside you, watching this exchange like she's witnessing a god sneeze. Durst's voice rolls low from the corridor. Simon, you're having a conversation with a fucking ledger. The book adds another line, as if clarifying for the slower members of the audience. I am not the writer. Ink bleeds downward, forms another sentence. I am the record. And then, with a faint tremor, the writer is coming. A soft sound echoes deeper in the stacks. A shift, a scrape, something moving in the dark. Mara grips your arm, whispering, Simon, we need to leave. Now. But the ledger writes one last message, its letters long and drawn like stretched shadows. If you leave me, I will lose what I know. The air tightens. The stacks creak. Something approaches. Simon, do you take the ledger with you, or do you stand your ground and wait for whatever's coming?
Yeah, Simon will take the ledger and get the hell out of Dodge.
Simon doesn't hesitate. He snaps the ledger shut, tucks it under his arm, and starts moving with that tight, purposeful stride of a man who has absolutely no interest in meeting whatever the hell is stalking the stacks. Mara is right behind him, lantern clutched to her chest. Durst falls in step with a hiss of steel as he draws one of his blades. The moment you take the ledger off the shelf, the entire archive reacts. A low thrum rolls through the corridor, like a plucked cello string made of bone and regret. Scrolls quiver, boxes rattle, dust shakes loose in thin, drifting curtains. Something in the dark exhales, a long, papery sound, like breath pushing through layers of parchment. You hit the iron gate. Mara fumbles her keys, hands shaking hard enough that 3 keys slip and clatter to the stone. Durst pivots, blade high, scanning the stacks. Move faster, he growls. Behind you, in the deep end of the sealed archive, pages begin to lift. Not one or two, dozens, then hundreds. The shelves ripple inward like a crowd leaning forward to see what you're taking with you. Finally, Mara gets the right key. The gate unlocks. Durst barrels through first, shoving it wide, and Simon doesn't wait. He grabs Mara's shoulder and pulls her through, slamming the gate behind you. The moment it shuts, something heavy hits the other side. Not a hand, not a body. More like pressure, as if a concept is testing the barrier. The gate bulges in a way iron absolutely should not. But the lock holds. The presence stops pushing. It lingers, then withdraws, slow as a retreating tide. You sprint up the stone steps and burst back into the narrow alley behind the hall. Fresh night air slaps your face. You didn't realize how cold it had gotten down there until now. Mara stops, bent over, hands on her knees, breathing hard. Durst wipes sweat from his brow with the back of his wrist. That, he says, is the worst library I've ever been in. Mara looks up at Simon, eyes wide and terrified and lit with a spark of academic obsession. You took the ledger. That means we have a chance. A real one. The ledger thumps once under your arm, as if agreeing. A single word appears on its cover in fresh ink. Safe. For now. Far off in the city, a bell rings. Not an alarm, a shift. A turning of some unseen schedule. Mara straightens. We take that thing somewhere secure. Somewhere the writer can't just walk up to us. She swallows. I know just the place. She meets Simon's eyes. You're in this now, aren't you? The ledger warms faintly in your hand. Valheron watches. The hall listens. The writer moves. What does Simon say to Mara?
We've got a room at an inn, but I don't know if that would be safe enough. Do you have any suggestions?
Mara pushes a strand of hair behind her ear, still trembling from the sprint, but the gears in her mind are already grinding hard. An in room won't cut it, she says. The writer isn't breaking in with lockpicks and knives. They're rewriting reality on the margins. A place with weak boundaries is the worst place we could hide this. Durst nods, wiping his blade before sheathing it. Yeah, he mutters. Doors won't matter much if the bastard can write us out of our beds. Mara thinks fast, eyes flicking left and right like she's scanning through a mental library. No, we need somewhere anchored. Somewhere old. Somewhere with rules that can't be bent easily. She hesitates. There are only 3 places in Malvor where reality is stubborn enough to resist conceptual tampering. She counts them on trembling fingers. 1, the old courthouse archives, but that's city controlled. If the writer has influence inside the government, that's suicide. 2, the Sanctum Ad Lucem, the Temple of Adir. Strong wards, but the clergy guard their vaults like dragons, and they'd never let an unwritten man inside without a full tribunal. She takes a steadying breath before saying the third. And the third is, her voice drops to a near whisper, the Copper Mare. Durst blinks. Wait, the inn we're staying at? Mara nods quickly. You think it's just a tavern with cheap ale, but the Copper Mare sits on one of the old frame lines. A lay boundary from before the city was even a city. Half the building doesn't line up with modern street plans. It's anchored, fixed. The walls don't shift. The foundation refuses to be redrawn. She steps closer to Simon, lowering her voice. It's why strong personalities always seem to gather there, why secrets survive there, why the Mar never burns even when the row catches fire. A faint smile, tight and uneasy. And why the ale tastes like someone distilled stubbornness into liquid form. She glances down at the ledger under your arm. If we can get that thing into your room, you might actually be safe enough to read it. Maybe even question it. She looks you dead in the eyes. But if the writer realizes we took it, they will come looking. Durst cracks his knuckles. Then let him try. The ledger pulses once against Simon's ribs. Not a warning. Not fear. Recognition. Simon, do you head back to the Copper Mare and take your chances there? Or do you want to ask Mara something else first before you make the call?
No, let's go back to the Copper Mare now.
The decision is made. Simon shifts the ledger under his arm, gives Mara a sharp nod, and the 3 of you move. Not a panicked run this time. A fast, controlled walk through narrow alleys and crooked streets, the kind practiced by people who know exactly how much attention they don't want to draw. The night feels different now. Not hostile, not safe. More like the city is holding its breath as you pass. The lamps flicker whenever Simon gets too close. Dogs go silent. A drunk leaning against a wall suddenly sobers enough to stare at you with wide, confused eyes, then looks away like his instincts are telling him not to acknowledge whatever he just saw. Being unwritten has a weight to it. You feel it now in every step. Mara hugs her lantern close. Keep moving. Keep moving. If we stay on the frame line paths, we should be fine. Durst grumbles. If it bleeds ink, I can kill it. Which is not the most comforting thing he's ever said, but his blade hand is steady, and that steadiness helps. You approach Binder's Row. The Copper Mare's sign swings in the cold wind ahead. A rearing horse made of hammered copper sheets, catching even the faintest moonlight. The building stands crooked compared to the street around it. Everyone thinks it's bad carpentry. Mara knows better. You know better now, too. A place reality decided not to argue with. Inside the common room, the usual crowd is thin tonight. A couple dock workers, a playing card game in the back. A bard half asleep in the corner pretending to tune a lute. No one looks up as you enter. But the Copper Mare itself seems to react. The air steadies, the pressure in your ears disappears. The ledger under your arm warms. Mara whispers, "It's accepting you. Good. Very good." Durst closes the door behind you with a quiet finality. Upstairs, your room waits. A warded space in a weird inn on a stubborn ley line. As you reach the landing, the ledger thumps once in your arm. Not urgent, not afraid. More like, "Put me down. I can speak clearly here." Mara looks at you with a tight mix of fear and excitement. Simon, whatever answers we're going to get, this is where we'll get them. Durst plants himself by the door like a hulking iron lock. The room is quiet. The walls feel heavy in a grounded, comforting way. The air doesn't flicker with shifting concepts. You set the ledger on the table. The cover peels open on its own, slowly, like an eye adjusting to new light. Fresh ink begins to pool on the page, forming deliberate letters. Safe. Ask. You've got the ledger in a place where the writer can't reach it easily. You can question it. You can demand answers. You can peel back the first layer of what the hell is happening in Malvor. What does Simon ask the ledger first?
Have any other people been written out of the ledger?
The ink pools fast this time, like the ledger has been waiting for that exact question. The letters form crisp and sharp. Yes. Another line appears beneath it, slower, heavier. 7. Mara's breath catches. Durst mutters a low, ugly curse. The ink shifts again and continues writing 7 identities removed, 4 replaced, 3 absent. Mara steps closer, her voice trembling. Absent. That means gone. Not substituted, not rewritten, missing. The ledger responds as if acknowledging her thought. 3 threads severed completely. Simon feels a cold weight settle behind the sternum as the next words write themselves. The city does not know they are gone. A moment passes. The ink hesitates. Then, you are the only unwritten. Durst glances at you, expression stone hard. Looks like they picked the wrong guy to overlook. The ledger writes again, the letters growing darker. The writer targets those who cannot defend themselves. Then, like a final blow, the next target is chosen. The ink spreads downward, forming a new word with dreadful clarity. Child. Mara's face drains of color. Simon, we're running out of time. The ledger waits, ready to continue. What does Simon ask next?
Where is the child?
The ledger reacts instantly. Ink doesn't just write this time, it lashes across the page, like the answer is trying to get out faster than the book can hold it. The letters come out jagged, urgent, unknown. Mara swears under her breath. Durst tightens his grip on the hilt of his sword like he's ready to stab the page itself. The ink keeps going, forming a second line that hits even harder. Location scrubbed. Then, slower. The writer has shielded the thread. The next words drag themselves across the parchment like they're under strain. Signature detected. Mara leans in. Signature? You mean a conceptual fingerprint? The ledger answers her as if she asked, yes. Then more ink pulls down the center of the page, gathering into the shape of a symbol. Not a picture, just broken lines of text forming an arcane notation. Simon doesn't recognize it. Mara does. Her face twists. Shit, Simon, this isn't just a scribe or a rogue archivist. This is a collector grade signature. Whoever's rewriting people, they're using the same kind of metaphysical ink the collectors use to bind souls. Durst growls. So it's a Malvor thing. Mara shakes her head sharply. No. Worse, the collectors needed tools. Whoever this is, they don't. They're acting like an author, not a clerk. The ledger shudders beneath your hands, the first sign of fear you've seen from it. Fresh words form. The writer moves. The child's thread dimming. Then it writes one more line in a thick final stroke. Find the signature. The symbol of broken text pulses faintly on the page. That's your only lead. Mara looks at you, dead serious. Simon, if you want to save that kid, we chase this signature now. We track the metaphysics. We look for where reality bends wrong. Durst cracks his neck. Lead the way. The ledger sits open, waiting. Simon, do you ask it how to track the signature, or do you ask who the child is?
Simon asks how to track the signature and who the child is.
The ledger doesn't hesitate. Ink floods the page in two directions at once, as if answering both questions is a priority the book refuses to rank. First, the method. How to track the signature. The ink sharpens into clean, crisp strokes. The signature is a distortion in reality, a scent, a bend. Another line forms beneath it, heavier. Only the unwritten can follow it. Mara's eyes widen. You're immune to conceptual hooks, so the distortion won't hide itself from you the way it hides from the written. It can't rewrite your perception. The ledger confirms walk, lil twist. A final line follow where things feel wrong. You don't need incense, blood magic, or spells. You are the spell. Durst mutters, hell, handy skill that. Then the ink shifts tone, darker, slower, answering your second question. Hatu is the child. A single word appears, unrecorded. The ink trembles. Name removed before entry. Mara's hand flies to her mouth. They erased the child before the identity was ever filed. That means they scrubbed the birth record, parents, everything. The ledger writes one more line. The child exists, but only in memory. Then, almost painfully, fewer than 10 remember. A final hesitation, then a last detail scratches onto the page, fragile and faint. Location last known, Finder's Row. Mara stiffens. That's, Simon, that's not far from the Copper Mare. That could be blocks from here. Durst steps to the window, cracks the shutter, scans the street. Doesn't look lively out there, but it feels off. The ledger warms under your hand like a pulse. The signature near. The kid is close. The writer is closer. The Copper Mare's wards won't hold forever if the writer decides to come personally. Mara turns to you, lantern trembling in her fist. Simon, this is real. We can still save the kid, but we have to go now. Durst slides his second sword free. Your call. What does Simon do next?
Let's all head out to look for the child blocks away. Looks like I won't be getting that long rest anytime soon.
The three of you move fast, not reckless, not loud, just focused, like hounds picking up a scent only one of them can actually smell. Simon steps out of the Copper Mare first, ledger tucked under his arm, the street lamps flickering in that telltale way they do now whenever his presence brushes against the edges of reality. Durst follows, blades hidden beneath his coat but ready. Mara comes last, clutching her lantern tight, eyes darting through every alley like she's expecting the writer to step out of the shadows any second. The night air is cold enough to bite. But Simon feels something else layered under the temperature. A pull, a subtle wrongness. Like gravity's been nudged 2 degrees to the left. The ledger heats against your ribs, faint but constant. Signature near. You take one step onto Binder's Row. Everything shifts, not visually, nothing shimmers or warps, but the world makes a soft conceptual click behind your temples, like you've just stepped into the current of a river that no one else can feel. Durst stiffens immediately. Something's off here, he mutters. Feels like bad weather with no clouds. Mara turns full circle, panic in her whisper. Simon, whatever you're sensing, guide us. And you do. You walk, half a block, another half. The wrongness sharpens. A tether pulling backward through the alleys. You turn down a narrower street, cramped, leaning buildings, laundry lines swaying like nooses overhead, and the sensation spikes behind your sternum. The signature bends reality here. Barely, but enough that your unwritten senses catch the distortion. Then you hear it. Not quite a sound, more like a pressure shifting in your eardrum. And then, faint, muffled, an actual noise. A child's sob. Durst immediately draws one blade. Mara nearly drops her lantern. The sob comes again. Somewhere between the stacked crates outside an abandoned cobbler's shop. Mara whispers, Simon, that's them. The ledger grows hot in your grip, pages squirming slightly. Near. Hurry. The alley is cramped and shadowed. The signature is strongest here. Durst crouches low, eyes narrowed. I'll take point unless you say otherwise. Mara clutches your sleeve. We have to get that child now before the writer. She stops, because a shape moves behind the crates, small, shaking, curled into itself. A child's silhouette, but the shadow behind it? It bends, strangely, like a second silhouette that shouldn't be there, leaning over them. Watching. Simon, do you approach the child carefully or do you confront the warped shadow immediately?
Simon confronts the warped shadow immediately.
Simon doesn't creep, doesn't whisper, doesn't hesitate. He moves. A clean, decisive step forward, scimitar sliding free with that hungry metallic whisper you've earned a reputation for. The warped shadow rises behind the child like a smear of ink peeling off the ground. Tall, wrong, jerking and stutters like reality can't decide what shape it's supposed to hold. It notices you the moment your unwritten presence hits it. The air buckles. A sound punches through the alley. Not quite a hiss, not quite a shriek, more like paper tearing underwater. Durst is instantly beside you, blades up. Mara staggers back, shielding her lantern. The thing unfolds another few inches, its edges glitching, its outlines slipping between silhouettes. A long coat, then a hunched figure, then a pair of too thin arms, until it finally lands on a form that looks like a humanoid scribble. A figure made of unfinished lines. It reaches toward the child. Simon does not give it the chance. You speak, not loud, but with that iron certainty Valharan has been threading through your spine ever since the ledger named you unwritten. Step away from the kid. The shadow freezes. Its head tilts. A jerky, disjointed motion, like someone flipping through the frames of a sketchbook too fast. Then its voice crawls out of it. Written. The ledger in your arm pulses once, searing hot. Durst growls, That's far enough, and steps to flank. The creature twitches. The alley lights flicker. And three words scratch into your skull like chalk dragged across bone. The child is mine. The kid whimpers, curling tighter against the crate. The thing's arm extends, too long now, bending like wet charcoal, reaching toward the child again. It's ignoring Durst, ignoring Mara, ignoring the lantern's glare. It's focused entirely on you. The shadow's form ripples. Lines bleed outward. It begins to step across the ground without moving its legs, sliding, rewriting its distance to you. Mara gasps, Simon, it's trying to overwrite the space. Durst steps in front of the child, snarling. The creature's outline distorts again. It prepares to strike, or rewrite, or both. This is your opening, Simon. What does he do?
Simon will slash at the shadow with both of his scimitars. Do I need to roll initiative?
Not this time. The thing isn't ambushing you. It's already in your face, already reaching, already violating the space around the child. You acted first. Simon gets the opening strike without initiative. Then we roll initiative afterward if it's still standing. All right, let's do this. Give me 2 attack rolls for Simon's scimitars. Just the d20s plus your attack bonus. And if Durst jumps in after, I'll handle his rolls on my end. Let's carve this sketchy bastard apart.
All right, we end the scimitars. 17. First attack roll is a 17. The second attack roll is a 17 as well.
Both blades hit. Not maybe, not close, not almost. A 17-17 against something that barely has a stable shape is a clean double connection. The shadow isn't built for physical resistance. It's built for cheating the rules. And Simon's swords? They're built for ending things that cheat. Roll me damage for both scimitar strikes. Same as usual. The weapon die plus your modifier for each swing. While you roll, here's what happens. Simon steps in, fast as a thought, scimitars flashing like twin arcs of starlight. The shadow starts to twist away, but your unwritten nature locks its form in place. It can't rewrite its position fast enough to avoid you. The first blade tears through its torso. Black, ink like vapor bursts out. The second slices across what should be its spine. The creature emits a grinding shriek, like a quill snapped in half. Durst snarls, "Hell yes," and moves to cover the child, ready for the follow up. The shadow staggers, glitching violently. Ink spills. Lines unravel. Parts of it flicker between silhouettes. A clerk, a tall woman, a hunched man, a figure with no face, a thing with too many fingers, none of them stable. It's hurt. Badly. Now give me the damage so we see just how badly.
The first damage roll is four, and the second is a and the second is a 5.
Your blades don't just cut the shadow, they disrupt it. A total of 9 damage against something made of unstable conceptual ink hits way harder than it sounds on paper. Here's how it plays out. Simon's first scimitar slices through the creature's chest, and the wound doesn't bleed. It unravels, like the lines making up its torso are being erased stroke by stroke. The second strike hits its back as it tries to pivot, carving a diagonal gash that detonates in a burst of shredded
Okay, sorry about that. Let's start reading this again.
Your blades don't just cut the shadow, they disrupt it. A total of 9 damage against something made of unstable conceptual ink hits way harder than it sounds on paper. Here's how it plays out. Simon's first scimitar slices through the creature's chest, and the wound doesn't bleed. It unravels, like the lines making up its torso are being erased stroke by stroke. The second strike hits its back as it tries to pivot, carving a diagonal gash that detonates in a burst of shredded silhouettes. The shadow staggers, jerking like a broken marionette. It tries to recreate its shape. It fails. One arm reforms as a child's arm, the other as an old man's. Its head flickers through a dozen faces. None sticking, all wrong. A voice fractures out of it. Unwritten, you interfere. Durst steps over the child, swords crossed in front of him. Buddy, you picked the wrong alley. The creature lunges. Not at you this time. At Durst. It recognizes the threat, the protector, the anchor. Time to roll initiative. Give me Simon's initiative roll, Deke. I'll roll for Mara, Durst, and the shadow on my end. Let's finish this thing before it can rewrite anyone else.
All right. Initiative 20. I rolled a 20 on initiative.
Simon snaps into motion before the creature even finishes its lunge. A natural 20 on initiative doesn't just mean you go first. It means you see the entire shape of the fight before it happens. The alley, the angles, the threat, the child. It all locks into place with surgical clarity. Mara's lantern flares, Durst braces, the shadow distorts mid stride, and Simon steps into the moment like he owns it. Initiative order 1, Simon, nat 20, 2, Shadow, 3, Durst, 4, Mara. The creature is badly destabilized from your twin strikes. It's half formed, half melting, flickering in and out of silhouettes as it tries to target Durst. You can finish this thing before it ever reaches him. It's your turn. Simon has options. Attack with both scimitars again, cast a cantrip, firebolt, chill touch, toll the dead, etc. Use a maneuver or special ability. Try something wild and unwritten if you want to experiment with your new nature. The shadow is within melee reach, twisted between Durst and the wall. What does Simon do?
Bonus action. Wrathful Smite. Has one strong as bonus action you take immediately after hitting a creature. Okay. Simon will attack with his scimitars, and if he hits, he will cast Wrathful Smite. Wrathful Smite has a bonus action, but only if he hits.
Perfect. Simon commits. Blades first, Divine Fury second. Go ahead and give me 2 attack rolls for the scimitars. Just the d20s plus your attack bonus. If either one hits, Simon can drop Wrathful Smite into the moment like a thunderclap of pure spite and Valharan fed power. The shadow is still unstable from your last strikes. If you land even one hit, this thing might unravel for good. Let's see those attack rolls.
Okay, the first attack roll is a 17. The second attack roll is a 25.
Both strikes land. Clean, brutal, decisive. The 17 slices straight across the creature's midsection, cutting through the shifting patchwork of borrowed silhouettes. The 25 doesn't just hit, it locks the thing into the exact shape Simon wants it in, a shape that can bleed, break, and die. And because you hit, Wrathful Smite ignites. A low, resonant hum fills the alley like the air itself is tightening. Your scimitars blaze with Valharan's fury, a black gold psychic flame that burns not flesh, but identity. The warped shadow freezes for half a heartbeat as the smite coils itself around Simon's arms like living lightning. Simon, Mara whispers behind you, terrified and awed. Your blades are rewriting it. Durst grins like a wolf. Finish it. All right, Deke, roll. Damage for both scimitar hits. Wrathful Smite's bonus damage, 1d6 psychic. Then I'll tell you what happens when an author made shadow is struck by an unwritten man wielding wrath.
Wrathful Smite does 5 points of damage. Wrathful Smite does 5 points of damage. The first scimitar does 7 points of damage, and the final strike does 9 points of damage.
Simon hits this thing like a cosmic guillotine. Total damage: first scimitar, 7, second scimitar, 9, wrathful smite, 5. Grand total 21 points of sit the hell down damage. And against a creature made of unstable conceptual ink, it's catastrophic. How it dies. Your first blade shears through its torso, and the wound doesn't cut so much as erase, a long, clean deletion mark tearing its middle out of existence. The second blade hits the creature as it staggers backward, cleaving straight through its shoulder. The stroke rips through half a dozen clashing silhouettes: a child's arm, a clerk's sleeve, a thin man's coat, a hunched shadow, all shredding into spiraling tendrils of drifting ink. Then, Wrathful Smite detonates. Black gold fire erupts from your blades, crackling like burning scripture. It latches onto the shadow's core, if it even has one, and the entire creature convulses in place. The smite doesn't burn it, it rewrites it. Every line of ink composing its body spasms, unravels, and tears apart like a sketch being violently erased from a page. It shrieks, the sound fracturing into a dozen voices, all half formed. Unwrit, unwritten, you. Then it collapses inward. The entire figure folds like wet parchment, crumples into a single blot of black ink on the cobblestones, and that blot sinks down, seeping between the stones like it's retreating back to whatever nightmare it crawled out of. Gone. The alley falls silent. The child, small, maybe 7, hair tangled, face streaked with grime, stares up at you with huge, terrified eyes. Durst kneels beside them, checking for wounds. They're breathing, he says, scared out of their mind, but alive. The ledger in your arm thumps once. Thread preserved. Mara slowly lowers her lantern, exhaling for the first time in what feels like minutes. Simon, you just killed a proxy. The writer sent that thing to fetch the child. She swallows hard. And I doubt they'll like being thwarted. The child whispers, voice shaking. Are you the man from the light? Their eyes fix on your scimitars, still faintly glowing with fading smite energy. Durst glances at you. Mara waits. The alley holds its breath. What does Simon say to the child?
I don't know if I'm from the light, but I am here to help you.
The child's trembling slows as Simon speaks, like your voice cuts through whatever nightmare fog still has its hooks in them. They blink up at you, eyes watery, filthy, but clear enough to catch the soft afterglow still humming in your scimitars. Durst sheathes one blade and gently puts a steadying hand on the kid's shoulder. Mara watches the exchange with a look that's equal parts relief and a creeping academic horror at what almost happened. The shadow's last traces have already faded between the cobblestones. The kid swallows hard. Their voice is a rasp. It was trying to take my name. Mara's face goes white. The ledger thumps once against your chest. Confirmed. The child shivers again and reaches for you without even realizing it, small fingers brushing your coat. Everything kept changing: the buildings, the street. I couldn't remember where my house was. Durst meets your eyes over the kid's head. This writer's already been working on him. We got here in the last damn second. You crouch down so you're eye level with the kid. The alley feels a little warmer for the first time since you walked in. The child whispers, Am I going to disappear? Before you can answer, the ledger vibrates, pages fluttering inside your coat. Fresh ink etches across its surface. Threat neutralized. Thread stable. Temporary. Writer aware. Mara reads that and blurts, "Temporary? Simon, temporary. We have to move. We have to get them somewhere. The writer can't finish the job." Durst scoops the kid up with surprising gentleness, settling them against his shoulder. "Just tell me where," he rumbles. Mara steps closer to Simon, low and urgent. "The Copper Mare again. Or the Sanctum Adlusum. Or, Kadon, help us. Your room at the Mar might be the only place the writer can't just overwrite their existence right now." Your scimitar's dim. The night seems to lean in, listening. You've saved the child, but the writer knows, and the next move is yours. Where does Simon take the child?
Simon will take everyone to the Copper Mare.
Durst hoists the kid a little higher on his shoulder, and you can feel the relief rolling off him, even though he's trying to pretend he's just adjusting his stance. Mara lets out a shaky breath she's been holding since the alley turned into a death trap, and she clutches her lantern tight. "Good?" she says. "Good. The Mar will hold. It has to." The three of you move fast. Not running. Running draws eyes, just a tight, serious pace. Half the city's lamps flicker when Simon walks past now, little pulses of reality quietly acknowledging the last plow, unwritten brushing their edges. Normally, people are out on Binders Row even at night, but the street is disturbingly empty. Either the writer is pushing people away, or the city's instinct for self preservation is stronger than its bureaucracy lets on. Durst checks every corner with the discipline of a soldier, not a mercenary. The kid's fingers dig into his coat, but they're quiet, only the occasional tiny gasp giving away how close they came to being erased from existence. Mara keeps her eyes everywhere, but you can tell she keeps circling back to Simon. The ledger. Your presence. She's studying you, and she's scared, but she also trusts you more than anyone else in the city right now. By the time the Copper Mare comes into sight, the odd tilt of the building, that stubborn, wrong geometry, feels like hope. The moment you step through the threshold, the air settles, like the building exhaled and accepted you. The kid sags against Durst's shoulder. Some color returns to their face. Mara heads straight for the stairs. "We go to your room. Close the door. Anchor the threshold. The Mar will do the rest." Durst follows behind her, muttering, "If anything tries to come through that door, I'll chop its damn bibliography off." Upstairs, your room waits. The same room you started the night in. The same room where the ledger first spoke to you freely. Durst sets the kid on your bed. They curl up small, knees pulled to their chest. The ledger pulses in your hand. The pages flutter once and settle. Ink forms without opening. Child safe. For now. Mara stands beside you, arms wrapped around her lantern like a lifeline. "Simon, you didn't just save a life. You disrupted the writer's pattern. You made them lose a thread they already marked for removal." Durst sits on the edge of the bed, hand on the child's back. "So what happens now?" The ledger finally opens itself, pages spreading like wings. Fresh ink writes, "The writer will seek repair. The unwritten must act." Mara looks at you. Durst looks at you. The kid looks at you. The next move is yours, Simon. Do you question the ledger about the writer directly? Ask how to protect the child permanently. Try to hunt the writer tonight? Let everyone regroup and gather information? Your call, unwritten.
Simon will ask how to keep the child safe.
The ledger doesn't just answer, it shudders, like the question itself carries weight. Ink floods across the open page in tight strokes, fast and urgent. Anchor the thread. Mara inhales sharply. That's serious. That means the child's identity is still fragile. If we don't anchor them, the writer can still reclaim the thread. Durst frowns. In plain words, Mara looks at him, then at you. In plain words, the kid can still be erased. The ledger writes again, as if clarifying. The writer cannot touch the unwritten. The child must be held within your field. Mara freezes. Oh gods. Simon, it's saying you are the anchor. Durst mutters. Well, hell. Means the kid sticks with us. The ledger continues. Location, Copper Mare accepted. Proximity to unwritten required. Distance limit, 2 rooms. Mara's eyes widen. 2 rooms? Reality won't stabilize their thread if they're farther than that. Durst looks between you and the kid. So, the writer can't erase them as long as they're close enough to Simon. The ledger adds one more line, heavy, almost solemn. The unwritten protects by existing. The kid looks up at you, eyes red and exhausted. Am I safe with you? Not hopeful. Not even confident. Just scared and desperately trying to believe the answer will matter. Mara's voice is barely a whisper. Simon, they need you. Literally. Durst rests a hand on his sword and the other on the kid's shoulder. Whatever comes next, we handle it together. The ledger waits, ink still, offering no more. How does Simon respond to the child?
Yes, you're safe. As long as you stay close to me. Let's all try to get some sleep tonight. I suggest we all sleep in the same room. I'll sleep on the floor.
The kid clings to those words like a rope thrown to someone sinking in dark water. Their shoulders finally uncoil. A tiny breath escapes, half sob, half relief, and they nod against Durst's side. Mara's posture softens too, that rigid academic bracing for doom loosening a bit. Not much, but enough. That's wise, she says, which is scholar speak for please don't leave us alone in this reality warping bullshit. Durst snorts. Floor my ass. I'll take the damn floor. You've been rewriting ink monsters all night. But he doesn't argue the together part. Not even a little. The copper mare feels different as you settle in. Like the air is thicker, heavier, protective. Buildings have instincts in Malvor, whether they admit it or not. This one is bracing itself around you. Durst locks the door, drags a chair in front of it for good measure, and plants himself there like a stone gargoyle with murder capability. Mara puts her lantern on the nightstand, turns the wick low, and sinks into the opposite corner of the bed from the kid. She's still fully dressed, journal in hand, but the exhaustion is bleeding through her posture. The kid stays close to the headboard, small and curled but not shaking anymore. They watch you with wary but growing trust. Simon lays out on the floor. It's not comfortable. You've slept in worse. But tonight isn't about comfort. It's about proximity. The ledger rests beside you on the floorboards. It flips one page on its own. A single line appears, faint and slow, stable. Everyone breathes a little easier. Mara finally lets her eyes close. Durst's sword slips slightly in his grip as his head nods forward. The kid nestles under a blanket, barely whispering, Thank you. The candle burns low. The copper mare's old wooden frame groans once, like it's settling around you all. For a moment, just a moment, the danger feels distant. The writer does not come tonight. Sleep pulls everyone under. Simon, when you dream, do you resist Valharan's presence? Or do you let it in?
I let it in. Uh-oh. Taking an awful lot of time for this.
Sleep takes you, but it doesn't feel like slipping under. It feels like opening a door. The moment you choose to let Valharan in, the dream deepens, shifts, attunes. Not like a possession, not like surrender. More like tuning a radio until the static clears and the signal hits your bones. The darkness around you folds outward, and he is there, not in a body, not in a form. Valharan speaks in geometry first. Sharp lines of gold cutting through the void, forming fractal patterns that feel like the architecture of a cathedral made of thought. Then the lines bend into something vaguely humanoid, a silhouette built from golden script constantly rewriting itself. He doesn't need a face to look directly at you. Simon. His voice isn't a sound, it's a vibration in your sternum, like a tuning fork struck by the universe. You stepped into the cracks. The dream space ripples around the two of you. Ink black tides surround your island of gold as if reality's margins are sloshing under pressure. You have broken the rules that bind this place. This city was meant to be a closed book, but you. The silhouette shifts closer. You opened a page that was not meant to turn. You feel no threat in him. Power? Yes. Judgment? Not exactly. More like curiosity amplified to a divine scale. You saved a thread tonight, one the writer had already marked. The golden runes flare. I did not intervene. You acted. The silhouette's head tilts. You are beginning to understand what it means to be unwritten. Behind him, the dream darkens, as though a tide approaches. This freedom will attract the writer's eyes. They do not tolerate anomalies. Not in my domain. Not in theirs. He pauses, and the dream goes unnervingly still. Ask, Simon. The golden silhouette opens both hands as if offering you the entire conceptual structure of Malvor. What do you want to understand about what you're becoming?
What am I? What are you?
The golden silhouette shifts. Not startled, not offended. More like you just asked the real question buried under everything else. And the dream tightens around the answer. The runes that make up Valharan's body gutter once, then flare brighter than before, outlining him in sharp, elegant lines of living scripture. Simon, what you are is impossible. The dream folds showing you two shapes, a thread made of light, a ledger made of rules. Valharan gestures to the thread. Every being in Malvor is written into the world through this. A name, an identity, a place in the structure. Even the powerful are constrained by their thread. The ledger snaps shut, and you have none. He looks at you now, directly as a being of rewritten geometry can. You are unwritten, a life with no place in the ledger, meaning the world cannot categorize you. It cannot constrain you. You cannot be rewritten, removed, altered, or forgotten by the forces that govern identity. The golden runes ripple down his arms like molten truth. You exist because you refused a fate someone tried to bind to you. That choice fractured your thread and freed you from the page entirely. He steps forward. The dream bends with him. And what am I? The darkness around you peels away. Valharan expands, not in size, but in presence. The air vibrates with the weight of something ancient and endlessly patient. I am the patron of the unwritten. I am the keeper of the cracks, the one who watches between pages. Where the ledger ends, I begin. He lifts one hand. A single golden point appears between his fingers, like a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence. I do not create identity. I do not claim souls. I do not write destinies. The golden dot stretches into a line, a boundary, a margin, a crack. I protect what falls outside the page, you, the child. Anyone the writer tries to erase. The entire dream compresses into a single moment. Simon, you are becoming something rare in this city. His voice softens, or something like soft in a being made of cosmic authority. You are becoming one who can choose. The darkness stirs at the edges again, the writer's presence brushing the dream like a fingertip sliding across parchment. Valharan turns his faceless gaze toward it. You will have to face them soon. Then he faces you again. But first, tell me. The dream brightens, waiting for your answer. What do you want to be, Simon?
I want to be a hero from the storybooks, like my grandfather. I want to be able to wield magic as easily as my sword, my scimitars.
The moment you speak those words, the dream world stops. Not freezes, not pauses. It listens. Every golden rune composing Valharan's form brightens, cascading down his silhouette in a shimmering wave. He studies you with a focus sharp enough to reshape mountains. A hero, the word echoes in the dark like a bell struck in an empty cathedral, from the storybooks. Your grandfather's image flashes for a heartbeat, not clear, not detailed, but felt. Strength, sacrifice. The kind of man who defied fear instead of pretending he didn't have any. Valharan's voice deepens, resonating through your ribs. Then you seek to be more than unwritten. You seek to be legend. The dream bends, shapes swirl. A battlefield forms beneath your feet in gold outlines, not a memory, but a possibility. Your scimitars glow, your magic sparks like embers. The air around you hums with potential. Valharan steps closer. To wield magic as easily as your blades? To stand in the fractures and protect those who cannot protect themselves. To carry the courage of the man who raised you. Golden script curls around your wrists, your spine, your heartbeat. Simon, this is not the desire of a soldier. It is the desire of a champion. The darkness at the edges of the dream ripples, as if the writer itself just leaned in to hear your answer. Valharan notices and raises one hand. A single golden line snaps into place, a barrier the dark cannot cross. You cannot take back what you have spoken. The golden light saturates the space between you. A hero is not written. A hero is made. A pulse of power hits your chest. Not a gift, not yet, but a promise. You walk a path where magic and steel will answer your call as one. You walk a path where story becomes weapon. You walk a path your grandfather would recognize. He lowers his hand, and for the first time since the dream began, his voice gentles. You have chosen well. The dream darkens again, not menacing, but signaling the end of the audience. You will wake soon. Then one final line manifests in golden light across the dream sky. A hero is not defined by being written. A hero defines himself. The world begins to dissolve. Valharan's last words follow you into waking. Become the legend you seek. Then everything collapses into morning. Simon wakes. The copper mare is quiet. The child sleeps safely beside Durst. And Mara is watching you like she knows something has changed. Episode 11 continues whenever you're ready.
First, I will mark a long rest on Simon's sheet if that's okay. Then that will wrap it up for today. We'll pick up with episode 12 soon.
Sounds perfect, Deke. A long rest is absolutely okay here. Simon earns it after carving a nightmare out of reality, saving a child from being erased, and having a heart to cosmos talk with the patron of the unwritten. Mark it on his sheet with no hesitation. Everyone's HP is restored. Spell slots refreshed. Smite energy back online. Durst's nerves probably not fully recovered, but that's on brand. The copper mare holds steady around you like an old fortress with a stubborn soul. The child sleeps safely. Mara watches the dawn crack between the window slats, and Simon wakes up one step closer to the hero he said he wanted to be. That's the end of episode 11. Whenever you're ready, we'll roll straight into episode 12 and see what the writer does next. Rest well. Unwritten.
All right, so that's going to do it for today. Been about an hour and 40 minutes. Uh, I don't know when the next episode of this will happen. Maybe this week, maybe next week. So if you like it, you want to keep up, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you'll get a notification when I go live. Hope everyone has a good rest of your day. See you. Bye.